up, man?
How are you?
All right.
Yeah, I have a couple of things that are going on. I don't know if you guys have heard about the Players Tribune that started a few weeks back. It still hasn't officially launched, but thank you. Yeah, so it's something.
Everybody registered to that site?
Yeah. So it's something that we're extremely excited about and proud of. And
Wait, as you look into the, the Player Tribune,
Hmm?
when you look into projects like that, are you going to be hands-on with that? Are you going to be?
yeah, I want to be hands-on. For me, I've been playing baseball for 23 years professionally, so that's been my number one priority, and I've always had a hard time focusing on more than one thing. So I focused on baseball. I put 100% of my effort into baseball, although I was learning a lot of things peripherally, so now I get an opportunity to focus on a few more things, and business is one of them. So, I want to be hands-on. I think anytime your name is attached to something, you have to work extremely hard for it to be successful, and I take a lot of pride in that.
Come to the Yankees your second year. Was it somebody that you were kind of either in awe of, or was it somebody that kind of said to you, hey, Rook, we don't do things like that, or try doing this or try doing that?
You say my second year, what do you mean?
I meant your rookie year.
My rookie year.
Yeah, when you first came up.
In New York, 95.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from watching. I think a lot of times young people, not young players, but young people go into different careers and different job positions, and they think they know everything, and they talk and they don't listen. I learned a lot from listening and watching. So, I watched Donnie Mattingly. I watched how he went about his business, how he dealt with the media, he dealt with his teammates. My rookie season in '96, I learned a lot from guys like Tim Raines, Cecil Fielder. They enjoyed themselves, they had fun, they reminded you on a daily basis that you're playing a game. So there's bits and pieces from a lot of my teammates that I've taken over the years.
But are you a prankster, though? You're
I
a little
like
bit
to
of a
have
prankster.
fun, yeah, of course.
Well,
yeah, I like
elaborate
to have
on a
fun.
little bit of that. Like, what are a couple of things you've done?
Oh man, I've done a couple bad things. We had a guy by the name of Marcus Timms that came up. Anyway, it was post 9/11, and we used to have a lot of, the police would come in, they have their bomb dogs that were sniffing for bombs, and they come through the clubhouse every day. So this was Marcus's first week in New York, and so I decided to get the police to have the dog come, and I don't know if the dog barks or sits down or whatever he does. So he planted something in his bag. Yeah, I mean, it sounded good when I was doing it, but so the police came over and they questioned him, and Marcus looked like he was going to cry. They took him out in the hallway. Mr. T was in on it too, so we had fun with it, but I probably took it too far. That was one. That was a good one.
But you're known to do that sort of thing, yes?
You got to have fun. We were playing a game, you know what I mean? So I get the fact that it's our job, but you have to enjoy yourself.
Anything particular you talked to Obama about last week when you were golfing that you could share with us? What was that like?
Man, it was fun. I was out in Las Vegas. I was speaking at a Goldman Sachs event, and then my sister threw in a little event for me and my friends for my retirement. So I was out there, and then I heard that he wanted to play, and I'm not good at all. So I was extremely nervous. But we had fun. I'd met him previously at the White House in an All-Star game, and I believe it was in St. Louis. So we talked about some things.
Anything particular?
I would have invited you to come play golf with us if I wanted you to know.
Who won between you and President Obama golfing first?
There's a lot of cameras on that, but
Fair enough.
Very happy how the day went.
All right.
In 1998, I had an opportunity to meet you after a game, and I was 16 years old, and I was just completely starstruck. And all I could do was just reach a ball to you, and you signed it for me, and that meant the world to me. And you patted me on the head, and you walked off, and that meant a lot to me. So I wanted to thank you for that. And
You're welcome.
I guess my question is, at that moment, you were like the biggest hero I had right there in front of me, and I want to know who's your biggest hero.
Was Dave Winfield. He was my role model. He's the one I looked up to. He was drafted in all three sports. I still believe he's the only athlete to be drafted in all three sports. He was one of the first athletes to have his own foundation That's where the idea came from, my foundation, to help out. So I really looked up to Dave. I was a big Yankee fan. I looked up to my parents. I saw how hard they worked. They worked extremely hard. My dad played baseball. That's why I wanted to play. He was a shortstop as well. So I think those three were the people I looked up the most. Family, they're the ones that I have a very close family, and they've always been very supportive. More importantly, they've always been very honest. I think a lot of times people in general like to surround themselves with people that are going to tell them that everything they're doing is right. You know what I mean? You need people around you who are going to tell you when you're doing wrong. And my parents are very, very honest. Even if I don't want to hear something, they'll tell me. They'll give me their opinion. So I'd say family is most important. And then secondly, your friends. It's the same thing. I think your friends are the ones that are going to help you. They're the ones that are going to support you. At times, they're going to be the ones that get you in trouble. So you have to make sure that you surround yourself with a good group of friends. You're going to struggle. I mean, that's the bottom line. I don't care how good you are, you're going to fail. I mean, you failed 7 out of 10 times, you go to the Hall of Fame, you know what I mean? So I was talking to a group of my leaders once, and this was right around the time I got 3,000 hits, and I said, I have 3,000 hits, but I've gotten out 7,000 times, you know what I mean? So it's not funny. I don't think it's funny, but you get out quite a bit. So I've always just tried to remember the good times, and you have to have a very short memory, and you have to stay positive. But I don't care what career you're in, you're going to fail. You're going to have tough times. People always look at people that when they're successful and they assume they just woke up and they ended up in that position, but there's a lot of speed bumps along the way. It's just your job to try to make that speed bump not be a roadblock, you know what I mean? But you have to learn from your mistakes and move on and stay positive. And mistakes, I think you can learn more. I always tend to learn more from people's failures than their success. So I think you have that approach.
In the Player Tribune, you talked about cleaning out your locker that last day, and you had a bunch of boxes that you couldn't get around to opening right then and there. You just wanted to soak in the moment. Have you had that chance to open those boxes yet from your locker and go through them?
That's a good question. I haven't. I have since I was in the minor leagues. I've never packed my locker. I mean, last time I packed my locker, I was 20 years old. So I've never had to do it. Even when we switched stadiums, someone just threw it in there and they took it across the street and unpacked it. So when I was in there, it was kind of an awkward feeling because I really didn't know what to put in a box, and then you realize I'm supposed to put everything in a box because I'm not coming back. So I just gave up and left. But no, it's at home. I haven't opened it up. I'm sure one day I will, but I needed time to get away, so I have not done that yet.
I'm here to help you.
Yeah.
I know you've expressed interest in owning your own team, and I was wondering, what have you learned from George Steinbrenner that you would like to use for yourself?
A lot of things. Me and the boss are pretty close. His biggest thing was accountability. I think it's very, very important. You have to be accountable for your actions. You're not just accountable when things go good. More importantly, you have to be accountable when things go wrong. I was always raised to never make excuses. No matter, even when I had a good excuse, my parents didn't want to hear it. And I think that goes hand in hand with accountability. So the boss was very, very big on accountability, and if we didn't win, it's somebody's fault. You know what I mean? And who didn't do their job, and why didn't you do it, and we're going to address it. So I think accountability is probably one of the biggest lessons I learned from him.
I just want to say thank you for everything. You are the Yankees to me, so it's
Thank you.
Really everything. And on a lighter note, my question for you is, who is your ultimate celebrity crush?
It's an easy one. I was in love with the Price is Right girls when I was young.
You won the showcase show.
Yeah, all of them. Yeah. It's true. I mean, I used to. Well, there's a reason. I used to go to afternoon kindergarten, and I would leave right after the Price is Right. So that was my. That was my first crush for The Price is Right.
That's
girl.
funny.
The 9/11 aftermath, right after that, when George Bush flew in and landed, and then I heard the story about you being underneath the batting cage, and then what was that like to be able to talk to George Bush, and then also that night when you stepped foot on the field, just the feeling from the
Yeah, it was, for us, it was kind of a odd position because, obviously everything that had gone on in not just New York City, but around the country. And, we were in a position where in our minds, we felt as though we were providing entertainment. Just for maybe 3 hours a day, we could get people's mind off of what had happened, especially in New York City. And, the World Series, I think, was the epitome of that because of the way the city rallied around us and the fans and showing up and how vocal they were, how loud they were in the World Series, especially those 3 games in New York. And President Bush was down in the batting cages where, I have a routine. I do the same thing pretty much every day. And he was down there and he was throwing out the first pitch, and I told him he better throw it from the mound instead of in front because he was asking me which one do I think. And then when I was walking out, I looked back and said, "Don't bounce it, because they will boo you." So it was a funny moment. But the stadium there is probably as loud as I've heard. Yankee Stadium.
What inspired you to play baseball?
Who or what inspired me to play baseball? My dad played baseball. He played in college at Fisk University in Tennessee. So when I was younger, I always wanted to be like my dad. I used to go watch him play in this softball league, and he was probably my first role model. So he played shortstop. I wanted to be a shortstop, and I think that's where the dream started.
Was he good?
Yeah, he says he was better than me, but he said there's more teams now, For me, my biggest fear in life is to be unprepared. I am very uncomfortable when I'm unprepared. Hence, when I came out here, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I'm serious, but being unprepared makes me very uncomfortable. You always hear about people talk about athletes in terms of big moments in the game slowing down or speeding up. I think it speeds up if you're unprepared and you're caught off guard. So I try to think about every possible scenario before it happens. So then when it happens, I'm not caught off guard. So
how did you manage to stay so focused on your goals?
How did I? One thing I've always prioritized. My number one priority for the last 20 years was my baseball career. That's it. I did a lot of other things, but I never wavered from that being my number one goal. And I'm always big in setting goals and trying to reach those goals and working hard. And there's steps along the way. So I think prioritizing is the number one thing. I think sometimes people have so many different goals and they're going in this direction, that direction, and they never reach the potential of one particular avenue that they're going. So, throughout my career, I've been very involved in different businesses and marketing and foundation, but my number one priority was always the game, and now my priorities changed, so I can focus on some other things, but I think prioritizing is
What do you
the
think
thing.
is the most important life lesson you've learned?
The most important life lesson, that's a tough one. I've learned a lot. Working hard is a life lesson. I think probably surrounding yourself with people who have similar mindsets is probably a very, very important one. I try to surround myself with people that are very positive, people that work hard, people that set goals, because I think the people that are closest to you rub off on
All
you.
right. Well, it's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.